Hey Zalivas, this is SuperZombGBBQ and this is my second version of this video where I was talking about these new cards in the Super Token format which are coming out on March the 21st. Now I'm just going to give you a recap on the previous video. Basically these cards are coming out, they're in a physical format, they come with these pod kind of things that you can collect. There's 8 of them and they all come in packs. They come with a physical super card that's kind of flimsy but has a QR code on it. Alternatively you can use the POG which literally you can just tap on your Android device and bang, it shows up all the details and the cards. You can use it up to 3 times with your friends, and you can also get additional rare cards inside them as well. All the stats are exactly the same as the loyalty fusions from the WrestleMania tier. On top of that, whilst it may look confusing, I don't believe that these cards are actually going to be those down arrows which are on each card. At the moment they're on every single one of the cards. I believe that's a marketing issue, maybe something that's a print issue. Maybe when you actually get into the game they may be different, or the prototypes all down arrows just purely because it was just easier to do that way. But yeah, that's going to be interesting to find out what happens with those. But they haven't actually shown how they get scanned into the game yet, or what they look like when they get scanned into the game. But again, just to reiterate, from the outskirts they look like a reskin of the ultra rare fusions. However, this is where I question that, and this is where it's potentially becoming a little bit clouded. Now, the reason why I think it's going to get a little bit clouded is because there has been no answer to a lot of questions. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of analyse this. A lot of questions that come out recently as to why WWE SuperCard have not had any major updates recently with regards to new events, new tiers, and any kind of additional features, when NBA, NHL have both had significant updates with significant new features on them. Now for me, I see that as a bit of a sign that something's going on in the background and there's definitely something coming up, because that's always how it's been. The Cat Daddy's approach has always been kind of cloak and dagger of the, oh, we'll tell you when it's about to come out, not tell you up front. Whereas other developers are kind of more up front with it. Maybe that's down to Apple and whatnot, but I'm sure it's nothing on Cat Daddy's part of hiding anything back. But I can't see them leaving the game in its current state, because we are now with a Divas PCC, and that's worth talking about as well. Divas PCC, we do actually have a leaderboard update which is going to come through in a second, but this effectively is endgame as far as I'm concerned. You're about to get a Diva which is probably going to be breed better the way things are going at the moment, Pro, which is going to make the game with Daniel Bryan almost unbearable in terms of the fact you've got so many event cards, and that's going to mean that there's going to be a lot of different people competing. I can see after the next RTG update, and this is when these cards, funnily enough, are launched on the 21st, something happening. Now the question is, what's going to happen? Now, this is something that Kill Moose Kill alluded to, and that is that we've been getting next to no updates recently. There's been nothing really mentioned, and there's been no game modes mentioned. Now, what this feels like is what there's at the end of Season 2 last season. And it would make total sense right now, with everything in mind, for a complete reset of SuperCard. I would personally wouldn't want it, but I think it's completely possible to happen. And Cat Daddy haven't denied this, and obviously it'd be interesting if they do deny it. But from what I've seen here, and if we go to this Brock Lesnar card here, the card design is largely the same but also different. It's not like any of the other Ultras in the game. It also looks significantly like the old school Season 1 design with regards to the kind of cross stitching or the cage effect on the outside. And you've got the gold tint at the top, you've got the gold tints on the card. It just maybe just looks a bit too different. Now, I could be way over speculating, but there is always the possibility that this could be the time when they decide, no, WrestleMania tier is not coming, we're going to reset it, and it's starting from now. We have, from this moment onwards, a new tier, Epic and Legendary, start again, and then you go forward to SummerSlam, and it just kind of changes the game up. Because then you could have SummerSlam tier, you could have Survivor Series tier, you could have a Royal Rumble tier, and then finally you could have like a kind of Mania semi-tier, or you could start the next tier with Mania. It could be anything, the next game of Mania. But as far as I can see it, these cards look significantly different. Whilst the stats aren't very different, and it looks all much like Season 2, this could be a big hint that there could be something big potentially in the background. And I don't want to maybe put too many people in the same position as they were but it's entirely possible. Again, this is a update that last time included chat toasts, and you got access to ring domination, but no new events whatsoever. And whilst, yes, you could argue that in the past NBA, NHL have gotten events eventually, whereas we had a lot of new events in Season 1, and we had the team events, you could also argue that a lot of time's been put into those, so you would expect the same amount of time's been put into WWE, and maybe they're just holding things back. Especially as what I would deem to see from the amount of downloads this game has had, the most played game that Cat Daddy actually make, as far as I'm concerned, and from what I've seen, which is WWE SuperCard. But needless to say, if this is a reset, there are going to be a lot of people who are very, 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 very annoyed, because they would have put a lot of time into this, and for them to, under a year, say, no, we're just going to reset everything back to normal, which would make sense as to why they're offering this. And this is where it comes down to. The designs of the cards are one thing, the stats are another, and there's lots of things saying to me, yes and no, it's not a reset. But the biggest thing is, why would they offer an ultra rare card when we're about to enter what is possibly WrestleMania tier, which is about 4 tiers above it, and you're also giving out rare cards as well. That's not going to get people into the game. That's going to make people think, well, why am I being put into ultra rare tier instead of getting into legendary epic tier? If this was going to be for this game, I would have assumed that they would have done an epic tier instead, or given the people the ability to have the pros up front, because just by giving people singles, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. The biggest thing for me is that super tokens are being released very close to what you would say is the final closing stretch. If these were released at the end of legendary tier, I could kind of understand it. At the end of survivor tier, I can't get it. If something's not right in my head in terms of understanding why they've made this decision to do this now. And maybe they could offer a bit more clarification on it. I'm not saying that a new tier or a reset is coming, but as of the 21st, I would expect a few changes, potentially with them literally doing what they did at Season 1, killing it, starting again, maybe even killing Season 1, and actually having Season 2 available to play. They could also keep Season 1 going, because that was the classic version, and if these are the new cards that are available, it would make a whole lot of sense to keep the stats relatively the same, and these effectively are like the ultra, the loyalty fusions and whatnot. Plus, it would make total sense to have these, the stats relatively the same, and just change the cards up every so often. It kind of, at the same time, feels that maybe this is something more than just a marketing ploy to get people into the game. And you had the announcement last year with Season 1, maybe it wasn't as big as this, but with Season 1 last year, you had a lot of people talking about when fusions come out. People were asking, can we get, this is WrestleMania fusions by the way, can we get a ability to get out the old PCC cards that didn't win PCC? So for example, with Dean Ambrose, he didn't win that PCC against Roman Reigns. Could you get an option to buy a pack that has one of those cards in it when the next tier comes out? And they said, we're not planning on this at the moment, but we are looking to give you an option to use those cards in the future. And then Season 2 came out, and guess what? They're all on the lower tier cards. So it's very potentially interesting as to which way they go. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I apologise again if I make anyone mad or if I'm completely wrong. This is just me hypothesising over what potentially could happen. But if I have offended anyone, then you know where to go. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Leave a like on the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And remember to subscribe for more WWE SuperCard content. And remember to pay attention for the next video, because the next video is actually going to be about a game which not a lot of you are going to have access to, and is a brand new game for the WWE franchise from 2K Games. I shall see you soon. So leave!